Secresy, or The Ruin on the Rock, by Eliza Fenwick, Volume 2, Letter 7, from Lord Filmar to Sir Walter Boyer. What a life I have led these 3 days! An old house, my habitation, built according to old customs, with its casements staring at one another across a narrow court, and the very offices turning their backs on noble prospects. 2 old men and 1 ugly old woman, my companions. No young nor pretty face abides within these walls for thy poor friend's amusement. Called up at 9, and, what is still worse, sent to bed at 11. Did you ever go to bed at 11, Boyer? There I wake and doze and dream. I hear the inspiring rattle of dice boxes. Wake and curse myself for ever having known their enticements, and then curse them for not being now beside me. What in the name of wonder could have become of you the day I left London? Your valet was drunk when I stopped, full of intelligence, at your lodgings. Uck and hick was all I could get from the fellow for a time, and then followed, yes, sir, to be sure, my lord. I'll tell you at once, my lord is gone, sir, in a post-chaise and 4, my lord. Where is Sir Walter gone, puppy? Sir Walter, my lord. Oh, yes, Sir Walter is gone. I don't know where he is gone, Sir Walter. Drive on, cried I, and home I went to step from my carriage to the travelling chaise, in which with my dear father I was gently whirled down to Monkton Hall. What a life have I led these 3 days! A pestilence on your throat, I say. There he sits, Walter, the bird of night and wisdom, and with his quavering who calls on me to be solemn if I can't be wise. I hate wisdom, and had I not a story to tell you, would sit down and rail at it. Every clock from every steeple last Wednesday morning sounded 7, as I with pledged honour and empty pockets drove home from . The memento was insolent, and I was splenetic. I longed to throw stones at the steeples, and to knock down each sturdy porter who looked into the chariot, to inform me by his clear eye and vigorous step that he has passed the night in rest, and had arisen poor indeed, but happy. Impudent scoundrel! He a porter, I a viscount. I undressed and went to bed, where I had the felicity of ruminating till 10 o'clock upon the vast increase of my knowledge and happiness since I became so intimately connected with Spellman and his associates, at which hour of 10 the Earl sent a servant to request I would breakfast with him. Qualms of apprehension stole upon me. I foreboded strange discoveries and severe remonstrances, and as I felt too humbled in my own opinion to be insolent even to my father, I considered how to avoid the interview, till I had mechanically staggered into the Earl's dressing-room, where I was received with "Good morning to your lordship." "I hope you are well, my lord," said I, and throwing myself across the sofa, we sipped a cup of chocolate in silence. "I inquired for you last evening," said the Earl. "I believe Lord Filmar was extremely late ere you came home." "It was extremely late, my lord," replied I, as I so readily agreed in his opinion. The Earl was at a loss how to proceed. Twice he removed his chair, played with a teaspoon, and we finished our chocolate. After the breakfast things were removed, the Earl turned his chair more toward me. "Hem!" said he. "Hem!" I arose, and wished his lordship a good morning. "Stay, Lord Filmar, a moment. Pray sit down, and hem! I understand but too well that I suspect, I am fearful, the company you keep will do you harm. Now, Walter, this man, the Earl of Elsings, a peer of the realm of Great Britain, had not courage to say to his own son, 'Dick, thou art a fool, and wilt be a beggar. Thy companions are gamblers, sharpers, and knaves, and henceforward I command thee to abstain from their society.' You astonish me, my lord, answered I, with great apparent simplicity. I could not suppose I should displease you by associating with men of rank. Oh, certainly not, by no means. Only I would insinuate that play is dangerous and your income small. Small indeed, thought I. A considerable pause succeeded, and then my father's countenance brightened. I propose going down this day to Sir Gilbert Monkton's, said he. I wished him an agreeable journey. You must go with me, Lord Filmar. Nay, pray excuse me, sir. Consider the season, the place, and the society. How can your lordship plan such an expedition at this part of the year? You will inevitably bring on an ague, or a nervous fever. Dear my lord, don't think of it. Indeed, replied the Earl, nothing but a view to your interest could have determined me to make Sir Gilbert a visit now. Your interest, Lord Filmar, has strong claims upon me. Your present income scarcely exceeds £1,000 a year, and you well know that with all my care and prudence I have not so far recovered former encumbrances as to be able to leave with the title of Elsings more than a clear £5,000 per annum. The Earl paused, hemmed, picked up a scrap of paper, then hemmed again, and proceeded. You know, I think you know, Mr. Valmont. I bowed assent, and the Earl looked as if he wished I had spoken, but I was resolved to hear him to the end. Yes, you do know Mr. Valmont, a very singular man. He has strange ideas of education. In all our conversations on the topic, I never could be brought to coincide with him. Yet he is a worthy man too. He has a prodigious fine estate at Moor Down, and that estate round the castle is in excellent order. A strange, Gothic, dismal place, that castle of his, to be sure. I cannot remember how long it is since it was built, but it was a Valmont built it, I know. It has never been out of the family. Yet I wonder he should choose always to reside in it, and to keep his niece in it also. His niece, you know, Lord Filmar, I am one of Miss Valmont's guardians. I bowed again. I am told she is very handsome. She was a beautiful child. I have not seen her these 10 years. It was very singular indeed, I think, to guard her so closely from every one's observations. Yes, Lord Filmar, Mr. Valmont's mode of thinking is certainly very singular. Miss Valmont's father was a most accomplished man, and one of my most intimate friends. He built a seat after the Italian manner, tasty and elegant as you can possibly suppose. He was very fond of Italy. Poor man, he died there. I wish I could have prevailed on Mr. Valmont to allow his niece a more enlarged education. Her manners, I think, must be constrained and ungraceful, but certainly, as her father's brother, Mr. Valmont had a right to claim the sole protection of her person, and to bring her up as he thought proper. My father paused, and though I could not immediately perceive the tendency of this ratiocination, I was resolved not to assist him, and remained silent. I was telling you, Lord Filmar, how much care and pains I have taken to redeem the Elsing estate. Let me advise you to leave off play, and to think of settling yourself advantageously. Would not a beautiful bride adorn the title of Lady Filmar? I do not perceive, answered I, that the title of Filmar wants any other ornament than it already possesses. Remember, dear sir, I am scarcely 22. Now Walter the Earl was not content with the simple recollections I had urged to him, but he began also to remember my profusion, my follies, if you please, and my inadequate provision for them. Stop, my lord, cried I, and pray inform me what fortune my poor lordship has a right to expect as an antidote for matrimonial poison. I think, replied my father, that a lady of honourable descent, of good expectations, and possessing an unentailed 6 or 7,000 a year, would be a very proper match for you. And that lady is Miss Valmont? No such thing, no such thing, cried the Earl, almost starting from his seat. Will you dare, Lord Filmar, to assert that I said so? Indeed will I not, my lord, so far from it. I have heard you repeatedly declare she was left wholly dependent on her uncle. But why you should then be involved in the cares of guardianship, or why you should be inclined to saddle my encumbered estate with a wife without a fortune, I own appears a little mysterious. Be the true state of the case what it may, and we will talk of that hereafter, 'tis certain that every working muscle of the Earl's countenance betrayed the insincerity of his assertions, while he point blank denied that he had any reference to Valmont's niece when he proposed giving me a bride. I affected to be convinced, and with a kind of lazy curiosity played with my dog, and asked questions about Miss Valmont, and wound my father round and round this dependent orphan, till I was nearly as assured as though it were on lawyers' deeds before me that 6 or 7,000 pounds a year is the lady's marriage portion. A saucy, triumphant smile at length betrayed me. The Earl reddened violently, and degenerated into such hints about certain affairs of mine, that I suddenly jumped up, said I would attend him wherever he pleased, wished his lordship a hasty good morning, and drove away to deposit my burthen of confidence with you. Well then, Walter, here we are at Monkton Hall, and Valmont's frowning fortress stands only at 3 miles distant. But still I am not 1 foot forwarder in the direct road of knowing why we came hither. In the by-paths of windings and innuendo, indeed, I have made a little progress. I have discovered, Walter, that the Earl has a secret, but have not discovered the actual secret, only I can surmise a great deal. I surmise that the Earl and Mr. Valmont have laid a trap for me, and I surmise that I shall tumble into the trap, and be almost smothered with gold. And I further surmise that the gold will infallibly find its way out of the trap, and leave poor me behind it. I am resolved to be perfectly obedient and resigned to my fate, and you may, if you please, wish me joy, for if the dear creature is but anything like what her uncle intended to make her, with his wire-drawn principles about female weakness and female obedience, I shall be the least noosed of any married man in England. She will want no more than a cage and a closet, and 1 smile a month from her sovereign lord and master. Gloomy Hall, or Gloomy Castle, some such name, I formerly gave that turret-crowned building. Oh, the profaner! Why, it is paradise, the court of Cytherea, where loves and graces sport on sideboards of massive plate, and intrigue with wanton zephyrs upon every acre of Valmont's rich domain. We are invited to dinner, Walter. This is Saturday. On Tuesday down, go to the drawbridges to admit me. The squire and earl settle preliminaries. The wood nymph is introduced. She gazes with awe and astonishment on her polished lover, while I forget her to remember her fortune. At some future period I shall subscribe myself your very rich and happy humble servant, Filmar. End of section 25.